Dan Perot from the American Justice Partnership. He was Chief of Staff for Governor John Engler, and a conservative on the other end of our AT&T line. Nice to talk to you again after all this time.
Yeah, good morning, Michael Patrick. How are you today?
You sound very bushy-tailed at Scenic Lake, and life must be good, huh?
Life is real good. I'm looking forward to the debate Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be a real popcorn night for sure, and you get the happy hour debate early as a little warm-up, and then the big show at 9 o'clock on Fox. Let's jump over to the other side for just a second here, because Hillary Clinton is dropping some cash on television advertising for her campaign. Here's what it sounds like.
The Secretary of State who joined the cabinet of the man who defeated her, because when your president calls, you serve. And now a new title, Grandma.
I believe that when families are strong, America is strong. It's your time.
While this money is being spent on this commercial, introducing her as a grandma, by the way, the bad news is that more Americans view her unfavorably than they did a month ago, according to a new poll. 37% of Americans have a positive view of Clinton, 48% have a negative view, and yet at the moment it looks like she's going to be the Democratic standard bearer. Your thoughts?
Well, I think at the moment that's true. It's going to be very interesting to see whether or not Joe Biden gets in. I think the fact that his name has surfaced, I think that his office leaked of his interest in maybe looking at this, indicates that at least within the Democratic Party there's concern with the anointment of Hillary Clinton as their candidate, and a lot of it goes back to Benghazi, the email server at her home, the private email messages, and so on, that these issues have not gone away and will not go away because she doesn't have the answers for them, and Vice President Biden sees this as an opportunity to evaluate his chances, and the trust factor has got to be something that hangs over the Clinton campaign, and that would explain a little bit about the tone of the ad. I haven't seen it. What I've gotten is what I've heard here on your program, Michael Patrick, but trying to show her as a more softer, kind of likable, approachable person, which would try to get at that trust issue and the likability factor.
Is it good or bad for Republicans like yourself if Joe Biden gets in?
Well, again, it's hard to tell. I mean, I think everyone is saying, boy, it was sure great to see Hillary Clinton get out, but at the same time, she's a very damaged candidate. She doesn't bring the same gravitas to a presidential campaign that Barack Obama did. The history that was at play there about being the first African-American president, America got behind that. There's less of that with Hillary Clinton. It's sort of a, it's the old Uniroyal tires back, put it on the car. It's just the sort of that electing the first woman president where one would expect some kind of enthusiasm. When it's the first woman president who's Hillary Clinton, that is diminished. And so I think that Republicans, before we cheer about her troubles and getting a Joe Biden who would be a sort of a fresh new approach to this, that Hillary Clinton may actually be the more vulnerable candidate for Republicans to face.
It's interesting when you say Joe Biden, if he can be in Washington for 37 years in the Senate and then 2 terms as vice president and be considered fresh and new, you got to wonder what the bench is like over there, right?
Well, you do, and that's why Bernie Sanders has done so well, I think, a little bit. But, it's going to be up to Republicans, whoever the nominee is, and we've got, 16, 17 candidates now that whoever our nominee is going to have to define their own vision for the country and be able to bring America behind them. This isn't going to be so much about, Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton. The Republican nominee's got to make it about himself, or in case of Carly Fiorina, if she's a nominee, about herself.
Interesting, too, a little discussion I had yesterday with some people you would know. There is really not, that we could think of anyway, and it was just sort of a parlor game, a Democratic Mitt Romney who could jump in with his own money and make a big impact. Is there? Can you think of anybody?
No, I mean, no one off the top of my head. Of course, I don't follow Democrat billionaires very often.
Yeah,
but I did hear, and again, I don't know if it's politics or not. There was something surfaced the other day about the founder of Starbucks may get in. I don't know the individual's name.
Howard Schultz.
His politics. Yeah, Howard Schultz. I don't know his politics. But I think that, again, just that kind of conversation that's going on, Michael Patrick, indicates that there's just a lot of discomfort with Hillary Clinton among Democrats. And you're talking about, as you say, playing the parlor game. Who else is out there? Would we even look at Joe Biden? I mean, don't forget, 6 months ago, on her first, second, or third reboot, I don't know what it was, when people weren't talking about this. They were saying Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee, and some are saying she's already going to be the president. But her campaign has been dreadful. Her approach to issues has been about as dreadful, and she's got to understand that people want to know what she's going to do, and why should they elect her other than that she's Hillary Clinton, has been the Secretary of State, and some would claim not a very good one.
Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, graduated from Northern Michigan University, by the way, for what it's worth, in Marquette. I hadn't heard that piece of gossip, so we're good. We're trading gossip that we hadn't heard, so this is a fruitful conversation, to say the least. Donald Trump, I know everyone is asking you, if he were to, is this a cartoon that's going to go away eventually? Is it a sideshow, or is it the main event?
I think everyone would have said it was a cartoon, that it was a TV show, but the longer he stays in, the stronger he seems to get. It seems as if he sort of turned the basket of all that we've known about politics and elections upside down, and they don't apply. It's almost as if we're in another universe when it comes to the Donald. That's why it's going to be so interesting. The things that he said, the positions he's taken, historically would have destroyed a candidate, and yet he's gotten stronger with them. And I think that it's indicative of how upset the country is, at least within our party, the Republican Party. There's a strong faction in that party that he's tapped into, that is not just mad, but angry at government, about government, and Trump has tapped into that. And so, if he continues to speak in this sort of, I don't want to call it a bombastic way, but I guess for lack of a better term, let's use that. That's the kind of approach that a good segment of the country wants to hear. And the old days, that would be a death knell. Now it's sort of almost a rallying call. So if he does that, continues to do that in the debate Thursday, I think he'll do well. If he tries to sit on his lead and not upset folks, and people are going to tune in and say, well, what's all the hoopla about? That might go away.
Gosh, you raise a really good point there, too, because most times people would say, well, sooner or later he's going to say something really dumb and put his foot in his mouth.
He's been doing that all along, but that's sort of the conventional wisdom, and he sort of betrays that conventional wisdom. And I think that one of the interesting things we'll see is what are the rest of the candidates going to do to try to break out of that pack, that second tier. Will one of them sort of try to come after Trump and create a one-on-one that they could then be seen as the alternative? Will they go after Bush to try to supplant Bush? What will the governor from Florida do? I mean, those are all interesting, intriguing things for people to look at come Thursday.
Well, we will be right there with you with the winners and losers on Friday morning, if you don't mind, after the debates on Thursday night. Dan Perot.